Good morning, my friends. It's Saturday, June 20th, 2026, and I'm feeling great. And this morning, I was sitting outside looking at my YouTube feed when up pops in my recommended feed this video. The first live stream that I did right when I got home from the hospital on March 27th of last year. My return from the stroke and my first live stream. And I said, I need to watch that. I need to see how much I've improved, and even if it shows. And I did. Number one, it was a great live stream. I looked like death warmed over and sounded worse. Secondly, I had 400 people watching. Many of them are still regulars of mine to this day, but so many familiar names and old friends disappeared, got tired of me. Maybe I pissed them off. And I wondered what happened to them. And I was sad. But I think that can be expected. I was overjoyed by the number of people that were there that cared and still care, that make up the 100 to maybe 130 people that regularly come and visit with me in the morning. I'm going to repost that live stream here in its entirety. Do I expect anybody to watch the whole thing? I don't know. I do know that I watched the whole thing, and so many of my, at that time, recent observations and conclusions from my experience are dead on even to this day. And if you do watch this, let it serve as a reminder that the things that we talked about then, the truths that we talk about every day, haven't changed. And neither has the medical community, because it's still going on. So I hope you enjoyed this. A little walk down memory lane. For me, it joyously showed me how far I'd come since then in my health and my recovery. With that, take it away, Mitch. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch. Here I am. Look familiar? I hope I remember what the hell I'm doing here. And I hope everything is coming out okay and the audio is good and you can see me. We'll find out in a minute. Been quite a month. But at any rate, let's get this started. So we will come over to me. Yes, here I am. Good morning, everybody. And as usual, at least if we haven't forgotten in the past month, drink it if you got it. Oh, wow. Let me turn that music down a little bit. Not through with it yet. It's going to be a little bit different this morning. Maybe not as smooth, but I'm doing my best. I don't know if how long I'm going to be able to go, because when my energy gives out, it just leaves. So if you see me starting to slow down, don't be surprised as I say, well, folks, it's been great. See you next time. Okay. Okay, let me get rid of the music. Wow, wow, wow. Got my daughter here with me. She's out in the other room. Watching this live makes me very self-conscious. Well, big crowd, 148 people. Welcome, everybody. And thanks so much. Thanks so much for sticking with me. It has been 1 day shy of 4 weeks. February 28th, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I had the stroke. You know the story. It's been a monumental month. I've got a long way to go. But I feel that if I don't get back into this and do this, it'll disappear forever, and I don't want that to happen. Your support, your comments on my videos through all of this, I think, are what kept me going. And you don't know how much that means to me. You honestly don't know. I would have a hard time telling you what it means. But here I am. For the time being, I don't think I'm up to doing this every day like I was doing. Maybe once or twice a week to start. And as I get more mobile and I'm able to get around a lot easier to set this up in the morning, I'll start doing it more frequently. But my goal is to get back to doing a daily show. Geez, David, thank you so much. I'm going to have a hard time showing these things to you on the screen, but David, $20 super chat, really appreciate that. And for all of you that have bought me coffees over the last month, let me say thank you. Thank you so much for those things too. All that stuff really helps out right now. Well, I'm home, of course, and I'm doing, I've got therapists coming to the house a couple times a week. The first one is coming today. So this afternoon, I'm going to have some physical therapy, probably tire myself out tremendously, but I need it. I am still using either a wheelchair or a walker around the house. Talking is very tiring. This has affected my speech some. So understand, if some of the words that I say come out slurred, it takes it takes a conscious effort to try to speak clearly, and it's very tiring. So I'll have another sip of coffee, and maybe you do the same. Let me say hi to the people that are here. I don't know how many stories I'm going to tell today. I've got so many stories about what I saw in the hospital, about all the other patients, how pathetic it was, the way they were treated, the way their rest and recuperation seems to always be at the bottom of the priority list of those people who work there, how they wouldn't hesitate to come in at 2 o'clock in the morning and rudely turn on all the lights, wake someone up out of a restful and healing sleep just to do some friggin' little procedure or blood test that could have waited until 5 or 6 in the morning when they were awake. These people who work there, I can't believe they're that inconsiderate, but it boggles the mind. You get no rest. And when I confronted one of them who came in at 3:30 in the morning to take blood from me that would go to a lab that probably didn't even open until 8 o'clock in the morning. when I asked why it was necessary to come in at 3:30 in the morning, wake me up, turn on all the lights, stick a needle in my arm, draw the blood. Why couldn't this wait till the morning? He said, well, this is when I'm on the night shift. So that was more important than what we know is the most healing part of recuperating from anything, and that's adequate, deep sleep. When I confronted them in the hospital, I said, how come I can't get more than an hour of consecutive sleep? They said, honest to God, you can't make this up. They said, you're not supposed to sleep in the hospital. You don't come to the hospital to sleep. You come so that we can heal you. That's their attitude. And I keep referring to that as criminal, but it's awful. It's awful. So for 5 days I was in the hospital. I got no sleep. I'm surprised that I survived. And then when I went to the rehab place, it was a little better, but they still noisy. The nurses were always standing out in the hall all night long, laughing and partying and talking to each other. They didn't hesitate to come in and wake you up. And the roommates you have, because it's a semi-private facility, you can forget about sleeping with these people. So again, I went almost a full month with wildly inadequate sleep, which is why I'm so surprised that I actually survived the ordeal. Between that and the food, I'm surprised anybody gets out of there. But I'll tell you some of the stories as we go down the road. But we've got a big problem, Houston. The Medicare, the medical system, hospitals, healthcare is broken beyond belief. And you wouldn't believe it unless you were watching it firsthand. And I got so many comments. And if you've read the comments on my videos, so many comments from people who just mirrored them and told horror stories of their own. I wonder if I would have been better off having this stroke, just laying where I ended up in the house until I slept it off and woke up. And maybe I would be further along in my recuperation now than after all this medical attention that I got over the past months. Who knows? I don't know. But it is disturbing. It's disturbing. All right, enough of that for today. Let's see who we got here. First one in, Michael Pregler, last night, 7:45 p.m. Good to see you, Michael. How you doing? Don Schonger. Mary M. chimed in at 8:12. Patty Molden. It's nice to see the old regulars were right there when the video got released. Boom, up they came. It was great. It was great, gratifying to see them coming in last night. Mac, B81 Mac, chimed in at 8:30, and no slow shortly or after. Charger Mopar Rick from Miami. Quack. 8:35. Lori's Carnivore story was here. Everybody was, I guess, happy to see me. Hope I don't disappoint you this morning. Almost 250 of you watching. Wow. Lori, Sandy Blythe was here. Lori again. Aunt B, how are you? And Thomas, Target Prime Rib. DJ Scry, 89 is here. Paul McRogan was here. 920, Smoothie, 420. How you doing? Good to see you. Fatavore Pitt. This is someone I don't recognize. I still watch replays every day. Oh, super. Trina Mitchell was here last night. Janice Griffith. I got a lot of these folks. Marcia Z. Lizzie, good to see you. DS111 is here. We're about 11 o'clock at night. Kitchen Witch, Tanya. How you doing, sweetie? Thanks so much for your support. I really appreciate it. And Mandy Beddoes. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. And this, Dawn, how you doing? Now we're after midnight. Smoky Bear Lovers here. How you doing? What happened? Where did he go? Oh, no. Somehow my chat scrolled all the way down. I got to find out where I was. I'm busy. I have to use, there's so much chat. Oh, God. Let me find Dawn's comment. There it is. Okay. Lady June, thank you for the support, sweet. Good morning. This is a Mitch fix. It's a fix for me, too. It's hard to believe it's been a month. Really hard to believe. Bob Black says good morning, and Lewis. Hiya, Lewis. Lewis from New York. Good to see you, my friend. Lewis. He got kind of cheated by my stroke. He was scheduled to be my guest on the following Saturday. And I stroked out, and that was the last live stream I had Friday morning until late now. So we'll have to reschedule that for sometime in the future, Lewis. But we'll get you. Retired fat guy is here, and this is Wayne Herman. Hi, Wayne. Marla Kelly. It did it again. It jumped on me again. Why does it do that? I don't know. But I don't want to miss anybody, so I have to scroll back up to the top again and try to find out where I was. Sorry, guys. There it is. Wayne Herman. Marla Kelly. Jerry Graham. Hi, Jerry Wander Girling. Anna PL07. Mike Seeley. Here in Melbourne, Florida. Father of United Carnivore and Mike Seeley Jr. was here at 7:43 a.m. Good to see you. Couch Potatoes here. And Francine Bourgeois, responsible for my hot coffee. And I do have it working. It is here, right there on the coffee warmer, doing its job. Thank you, Francine. I always thank Francine for that. Didn't want to think, and after a month that I forgot. Jerry Bell is here. Hello, meat people. Francine, and a heartfelt welcome back to all of us addicts to Morning Coffee with Mitch. Great to see you. Speaking of addiction, let me take a minute. And talk to you about what happened to me eating the hospital food. Wow. They adulterate everything. They serve you a high sugar diet. If you're an addict like I am, and remember, I was sugar-free for 2.5 years. No cravings. Took them a week. To re-addict me to where sugar cravings came back, and I found myself helpless to stay away from the conveniently located refrigerator with those horrible little cups of vanilla and chocolate ice cream. Little 4-ounce cups. Those little cups, God, there's a worst quality ice cream on the face of the earth. I know that it's got no redeeming qualities. It's got no fat in it. It's probably mostly chemicals, emulsifiers, thickeners, and every other kind of crap that they can put in it. But it tasted good. That's the one thing these people know how to do, is engineer something to be tasty and addictive. I got one hand to eat with. This hand, my right hand, here, let me try to get it up here. I can grab on and hold on to things, but as far as operating any silverware or anything like that, I'm still at the stage where all I can do is basically hold on. So here I got this little 4-ounce cup of ice cream. I got to open it. So somehow I got to pull that lid up. So I managed to get this hand and get the ice cream put down in this hand and hold on to it. And then it's frozen solid, and I got a plastic spoon. You should have seen the gyrations that I went through and how motivated I must have been to get that sugar into my body. And looking back on that, that just validates everything I've ever said about addiction. From my personal experience, you never get over it. As soon as a taste of that drug hits your tongue and that sugar hits your body, it wakes up the cravings. So it took a couple of days, but after a couple of days, I found myself 3, 4, 5 times a day heading for that refrigerator, even though I was ordering what I thought was carnivore food. The problem with the carnivore food in the rehab facility was I could get bacon and eggs, but I'm positive they scrambled the eggs using seed oils, not butter, even though I asked them, are these real eggs? Oh, yeah, real eggs. What do you cook them in? I said, well, I don't care what you cook them in. I want them cooked in butter. Oh, okay, no real problem. I never tasted any butter. But at least I got what I thought was real eggs and bacon. But something kicked off my sugar addiction and the convenience of those little refrigerators and the ice cream, and they had the little fruit cups, and they had juices, every kind of juice, orange juice, pomegranate juice, grape juice. They had chocolate stuff. And most of the patients in there had their doctors order chocolate Ensure for them. And they doled this stuff out like it was liquid gold to these people. And they're so addicted to it. The grains, the seed oils, and the sugar that make up the Ensure, that becomes the highlight treat of their day. Now, my roommate was a nice guy, but unfortunately, he was 80 years old, and he had everything wrong with him. He was in there to recover from elective back surgery, and he had 2 weeks of physical therapy. But while he was in there, he's a diabetic. Every 2 or 3 hours, he had to come in and take his sugar. His wife came in every day and fed him a constant stream of junk food, hovered over him 24/7. He spent half his time in the bathroom. He was in terrific pain, was on oxycodone. He had a respiratory therapist come in. He went home the day after I did, and I wish him the best. But the one thing I noticed about him was that he didn't even think about the sugar he was eating. All he knew was that they came in and they took his blood sugar, and that the nurse would come back with 3 units, 4 units, 2 units, however much insulin they needed to counteract his blood sugar, which in a lot of times was over 200. And he's just looking at it as, well, I'm not going to give up eating the stuff I like, so I just use the insulin too. How he lived to be 80, I don't know. It's older than I am. Maybe I should be eating sugar and taking insulin. I don't know. But that's the way they all live. All the patients in there, they're all diabetics. It's crazy. The lady that goes around pricking people's fingers and taking the sugar is the busiest lady in the hospital. And when they came to dispense prescriptions at night, this guy got 15 of them. And it took them a half an hour to dispense his prescriptions every night. The only pill I got at night was a baby aspirin. I was proud of myself. We'll talk about the drugs that they prescribed to me another time, but it is unbelievable. And of course, everybody there knew for sure. Every doctor, and I must have seen 10 different doctors, every doctor there knew for sure what caused my stroke. It was an ischemic stroke. An ischemic stroke is one where a clot causes a blockage. A hemorrhagic stroke is one where a vessel burst, a bleeding stroke. The difference between these two types of strokes is monumental, especially when it comes to treating it. In a hemorrhagic stroke, you want to keep the blood pressure as low as possible, and you don't want to thin the blood. Why would you want to thin the blood when the stroke is a bleeder? In an ischemic stroke, you do want to thin the blood because there was a clot. And blood pressure is not as much of an issue. I had a doctor, a hospitalist in there to show you how much confidence I had in these people and how well they were on top of my case. Everybody told me, there's no doubt about the fact, Mitch, that your high cholesterol causes stroke. It caused your blood to get thick and clog your arteries, and that's why you had the blockage. There was no doubt about it in their mind. When I drilled down with them, what I thought was the most competent doctor there, I said, I said, number one, the hospitalist doesn't even know what kind of stroke I had. I asked him yesterday, I said, did I have an ischemic or a hemorrhagic stroke? He says, no, he didn't know the answer. How the hell can he treat me if he doesn't know what kind of stroke I had? So I looked at this guy and I said, the only thing I want to know, and everybody wants to know, and I get asked this question 16 times, every hour on my comments. What caused your stroke, Mitch? That's what people want to know. Why? Because they're following my advice. They don't want to take my advice and get a stroke of their own. I understand that. That makes a lot of sense to me. And his answer to me was, well, our medicine is not that advanced. You can't make this up. He said, medicine is not that advanced yet where we can absolutely pin the cause of a stroke on any one thing. I said, you mean to tell me you have no way of knowing what caused the stroke? Not definitively. So you're blaming my high cholesterol. Well, that's just, we all know that cholesterol clogs your arteries, so we just assume that that's you assume. What about this massive head injury and brain surgery I had 3 years ago, and the fact that coincidentally, this stroke happened at the site of that surgery, possibly because of some damage or blockage that was left from all of that cutting and hacking to remove that humongous subdural hematoma. Is that possible? Yeah, I suppose that's possible. But yet you're, with confidence, willing, in spite of the fact that I had the surgery, and that's where the stroke occurred, and that's where the blockage occurred that causes ischemic stroke, you're confident enough to say that you have enough faith in Ancel Keys and his diet hard hypothesis to blame my stroke on my high cholesterol. And you know what he said to me? This is priceless. I mean, priceless. And tells the whole story of modern medicine. He looked at me and he said, who is Ancel Keys? Let that sink in for a minute. My doctor, the head doctor in this particular rehab facility, a nice young kid, probably in his 30s, firmly convinced that the root of all medical problems is high cholesterol and high-fat diet, like everybody else in the community said. When I mentioned the name Ancel Keys, he says, who is Ancel Keys? I said, you never heard of Ancel Keys? No, I don't know. I said, well, Ancel Keys is responsible for the misinformation about the fact that everybody thinks that dietary fat and cholesterol is what causes heart disease, when that's not true. And he starts to look at me like I was from Mars. And I'm used to that from these doctors. So I said, you know, well, he said, well, I told him who Ancel Keys was. And I told him about the diet hard hypothesis. And he said, well, there have been hundreds of people postulate as to why. I said, no. Ancel Keys was a pivotal turning point in the misinformation that's guided everything right on up to the dietary guidelines for the U.S. government and the influence of the drug and food companies in the way you practice medicine now. I said, I'm not going to debate it with you, but if you really want to find something out, if you really want to find out what you're doing to your patients, I was ruthless with the guy. I said, you'll start researching this. And while you're at it, why don't you watch some of the carnivore doctors who are esteemed researchers and listen to some of the things that they say on their YouTube videos. But if you don't know who Ancel Keys was, and all you know about diet, nutrition, lipids, LDL, HDL, all you know about that is what they taught you in medical school, using a curriculum developed by Loma Linda University and the Seventh-day Adventists. If that's what you know, then that's what you think you know, and that's what you think is correct, because that's what all your textbooks say. And you keep referring to your textbooks. And I was brutal with the guy. But it worked out good. I think he gained some respect for me and my knowledge. Whether he changes, he won't change. He's got a big job in this hospital. And their whole thing revolves around cramming sugar in people and giving them enough insulin to counteract it. You got to see this stuff firsthand to get the full effect of how wrong it is and how much damage they're doing with this misinformation. So I said the other day in my video that I developed a test that I give every doctor when a new doctor comes to see me. I ask them, do you know who Ancel Keys is? I must have seen 20 different doctors over this adventure. Not one of them knew who Ancel Keys was. Not one of them had ever heard of the 7-country study. Not one of them ever heard the term diet heart hypotheses. Not one of them. They were medical school, industry, indoctrinated robots that followed the so-called standard of care. And the more I saw of this, the more I came up with what I said the other day on my video. I said, if I have to go back in the hospital, let me die rather than be subject to that mistreatment again, I think I'd stand a better chance staying home and wait it out. And that's really sad. That's really sad to think about it that way. And scary, very scary. So I'm going to do everything I can to recover and stay very healthy and stay out of that situation, if at all possible. But who knows? What happens if I have a heart attack? Guys from the ambulance come and grab me. They're going to take me to the hospital. I can't tell them to dump me beside the road. At any rate, there's the first of the many stories that I have to tell. But let me get back to you guys. You guys are commenting like crazy. No way I'm going to be able to go through all the comments today. I know you're asking me questions. I probably won't get to a lot of your questions today. I've got a lot to say. How long have I been at this so far? 33 minutes. Not too bad. I want to thank David Deast. He says, welcome back, Mitch, on a $20 super chat. Randy K, $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Good morning, Mitch. Brothers of the Leaf, glad to see you. BOTL. Thank you, Randy. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm watching the chat just scroll on by here. And I got it over there, and I'm watching it scroll by real time. Wow. Lizzie says it's okay to go slow. Bill Cook, a lot of people glad to see Mitch back. I am so happy. Look at that. 383 people. That's a all-time record for this kid. And I hope that my speech is holding out. I'm staying intelligible. I'm waking up here. I started out tired, but now I'm getting invigorated. Maybe I need to be just a little pissed off in order to tell it like it is. Lad has a question. Mitch, don't get too tired. We can make do with small slices. No, I'll be all right. I'm not going to do it every day. I like to do it once or twice a week. And I'll come up with a schedule. And as I get better, I'll add more in. But this is great. Mitch, where is my cigar? Somebody said. My cigar is not in the house. I don't smoke in the house. I'm probably going to cut way back on smoking cigars. Not that I think they really hurt me, but right now it's just too inconvenient. I have to go outside, which means I got to go down some steps and get myself all set up out there. So I smoked one little bit of one cigar since I've been home. Interestingly enough, I don't miss them. Everybody, you think you're addicted to that. Not addicted to cigars. I went a month. This is the last thing that crossed my mind. Carnivore says, you sound wonderful, so happy you're back. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wow, look at all you. I'm trying to keep up, trying to read. But it's been an adventure. It's been educational. It's not the way that I would have picked to gain some insights that I have gained from this. But going forward, this is the challenge that I face. I had a stroke. And this is my thinking. And I want to share it with you so you'll know what I'm going through. And I'll talk to you about the questions that I still have to answer and the unknowns about my treatment going forward because something caused the stroke. I had a stroke. Once you have a stroke, the likelihood of a second stroke is very high. I think they say 15 or 20%. So that becomes your prime thing is prevention of the second stroke. And there's no shortage of advice out there about how to prevent the second stroke. And how do you know if any of that advice is any good? Their first advice that I've got from everybody is stop eating fat. Stop eating, eat only lean meat. Well, that doesn't work, because if I stop eating fat, I have to replace it with sugar, don't I? Nobody can eat 100% of their diet from protein. That's worse for you than anything. Too much protein. We're supposed to be on moderate protein, high fat diets. And the fat is interchangeable with the sugar. So when you take the fat out, you got to put the sugar in. There's nothing else you put in except carbohydrates, because it's not good to eat too much protein. It's hard on everything if you do. Most of it gets turned to sugar by gluconeogenesis. A high-fat diet is the right way to eat, but that is the basis of all the advice that you get, because, as they say, everyone knows that when you eat fat, especially animal fat, it clogs your arteries, even though they have absolutely no proof of that anywhere. Most of these doctors don't even know the distinction between LDL and cholesterol. They think LDL is cholesterol. We talked about that in the past. So much confusion. And these are the guys, all these doctors, they kept throwing prescriptions at me. Statins, beta blockers. I managed to keep it to those two. So right now, I came out of rehab with a prescription for low-dose statins. And you all know how we feel about statins, but there is some evidence that there may be, and I use these terms because I can't say anything definitely, nobody knows, but there may be a benefit, some benefit to a low-dose statin after a stroke. That's the difference between primary treatment and secondary. Primary treatment is to take somebody that's never had any heart or stroke problems, seems perfectly healthy, and start feeding them statins as a prophylactic. The game changes after you've had a coronary incident or a stroke, because something did cause that. And right now I am taking the statin, but the jury's still out whether I will continue, because one doctor there made a case, which I haven't thoroughly investigated yet, because I don't know if anybody really knows, or you can go anywhere and find any real information that isn't propaganda from somebody or other. But this doctor told me that they didn't prescribe the statin in an effort to get my cholesterol numbers lowered. They prescribed it for some other benefits it's shown, probably anti-inflammatory or anticoagulatory, and they recommend taking it. Not all the doctors agreed. That's another problem. You got 20 doctors. 10 of them say this, 10 of them say that. 10 of them told me, you need to take a big aspirin. You need to take 325 milligrams a day after a stroke. The other 10 doctors said, oh, no, that's way too much aspirin. That'll cause ulcers and stomach problems and thin your blood way too much, which means when if you have a cut or whatever, it'll bleed like crazy uncontrollably. You need to be taking a baby aspirin. The two groups of doctors argued the entire time I was in the hospital about the benefits of the big aspirin over the benefits of the small aspirin. What am I supposed to do? So what I did was I compromised. I said, okay, I got out. They finally told me to take the big aspirin on the way out. So obviously one doctor outranked another doctor. I went and bought the baby aspirin, and I said, okay, I'll start out by taking 2 of the little aspirins, basically split the difference with them, and take 160 milligrams a day instead of 325. So that's what I'm doing. They also prescribed me a beta blocker, even though my blood pressure was normal. I said, why do I need a beta blocker? I said to this one doctor, why am I being prescribed blood pressure medication when my blood pressure is normal? His answer again, well, you came with it. You had, when we got you from the hospital, you already were on beta blockers. We assumed that was a medicine you've been taking all your life, or taking long before you had the stroke, which is not true. Some poor doctor at the hospital decided I needed a blood pressure or needed to slow my heart rate down, which is what a beta blocker does, and put me on a beta blocker, even though my pulse rate was usually less than 60, my resting pulse. So when I got into rehab, I find myself with 2 prescriptions, the statin and the beta blocker. And I just fought against anymore, but I figured, well, they can't hurt me on the off chance that these guys know something. There is an upside that I don't see, the downside to taking these things for a short period of time, until I find out for real, or find out a whole lot more about my individual case, and hopefully zero in on what causes stroke. And that may take some more testing. So I have an appointment with my primary care at the VA to start investigating and trying to find out what causes stroke. Because until you know what caused these things, how can you know how to treat it if you don't even know what it is? They don't hesitate to jump to these conclusions and make diagnosis on insufficient information, inadequate tests, and incompetency of the guy that came before them, because they seem to rely on his conclusions going forward. That's scary. That's scary. I have to watch out for myself, and I have to figure it out. And that's what I'm going to be doing in the future. In the meantime, I'll take the low-dose statin, I'll take the beta blocker, but I have cut the beta blocker in half because it was just drawing all my energy. I felt like I was fighting against something, trying to slow my heart down when it was already too slow, lower my blood pressure too much. And I cut the dose of that in half myself. And I have a funny feeling that beta blocker may be the first medicine to go. I don't think I need it. I don't know why they gave it to me in the first place. But I'll be damned if just because some doctor somewhere along the line decided to write a prescription for a beta blocker, that I'm going to let the medical community saddle me for life on a drug that more than likely I don't need. And that's what happens to most of us. And that's why everybody these days has got pill sorters with 50 little compartments in them. And you wonder, what the hell am I taking all these drugs for? But these are the things that I have to do going forward. And I'm going to share everything that I find out, and the reasons why and where I found these things out. Hopefully, to make my recovery better and my chances of having another stroke in the future minimal. I want to share them with you, but I'm not going to share just opinions without anything backing them up. And that seems to be the way these doctors work. It's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, what time is it? 46 minutes in. Okay. I think I have thanked everybody that gave me the super chats. I appreciate it. I don't know if anybody bought me any coffees yet. I don't. My daughter's got my cell phone out there because I'm expecting a number of callbacks from people that I didn't want to miss because I'm live streaming. But if any of you have bought me a coffee, I'll drink it. Thank you so much. Thank you. You've been very generous to me. All right, I'm not tired yet. And we haven't finished with this yet. And I got 429 people. Welcome. I hope you come back and see me again. I hope to be able in these morning things, as well as videos. I'm going to make videos also, talking long form videos where I can think them out a little bit. It's not live. Because everybody who knows me knows that when I'm live, I go down one rabbit hole after another and sometimes forgot where I started. Let me see what we got. CB Carmack Ladd is here. Brenda McIntyre, Mama Bear. Mama Bear says getting blood pressure too low can be a problem too. It could lead to a fall. That's true. And when they first took me in and they measured my blood pressure after the stroke, it was always between 110 and 120 and about 65. And then they took it one day when I was just pissed and excited and on a tear. And you know, if you listen to people tell you how to properly take a blood pressure, I'm convinced that not one of the blood pressure readings that they took in the hospital was actually valid. Listen to Ken Berry talk about it. It's very interesting. Number one, always take your blood pressure reading at the same time every day. Number two, make sure you sit quietly in an upright position with your arms up about your heart level and sit quietly for 5 or 10 minutes. Calm down before you take your pressure. In that way, you'll get a baseline that you can compare it to every day. You can't come in from playing football and arguing with the coach, being red-faced angry, throw the blood pressure cuff on, whether you're standing up, laying down, or otherwise, continue to yell and scream while they're taking your blood pressure, and expect your blood pressure not to be astronomical. Then throw into the mix the fact, if you're like me, you've got something called white coat syndrome. White coat syndrome, what it does to me is, if I'm worrying that my blood pressure may be high for some reason, it's going to be 40, 50 points higher. And that all started way back when I used to get my flight physical for my pilot's license. Okay? I'd go into, and I knew that my pressure needed to be low. But just knowing that and the pressure it put on me, the stress and tension of that number coming out too high, raised my blood pressure 40 points, at least. They call that white coat syndrome, meaning that the presence of a doctor is going to make your blood pressure go up. So I finally got to the point, and this is 40, 50 years ago, with my flight surgeon. He'd see me coming, he'd say, Mitch, go in there to the exam table, lay down, turn off the light. I'll be in 15, 20 minutes to take your blood pressure. And I was nice and relaxed, and he came in, and I always passed with flying colors because my blood pressure was never high. But every doctor I ever had, first thing I wanted to prescribe blood pressure medication. And I'd take that stuff and it'd make me sick because I really didn't have high blood pressure. And I just went through that in the hospital. Once I got that first reading that was high, They could not stay away from me with that stupid blood pressure cuff. They had to take my blood pressure every 5 minutes. The more they took it, the higher it got. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If they just leave me alone and take it when I'm calm, it always run back down to 120. But they only dwell on the last reading and figure that you need more medicine. And that's another trap I fell into there. So I have to fight all. I have to explain my diet to them. I have to explain my high cholesterol to them. I have to explain my high blood pressure that's high when they read it under adversarial conditions. And I got tired. I just got so tired of explaining medicine to medical professionals. And I haven't even talked about my little chats with a head dietitian yet, and what I had to listen to coming out of her mouth. The meals, I don't want to get back to that now. The meals, mostly sugar. The basic breakfast. The basic breakfast. This was the breakfast day, the default breakfast. No fat, no meat. Breakfast cereal, skim milk, low-fat milk, no fat, artificial sweetener, or sugar. They don't hesitate to feed you sugar. Orange juice or some other fruit juice, which is pure sugar. Some kind of dry bread, toast, muffin, and margarine. But you could get butter if you wanted it, unless you're on a restricted diet. Fortunately, they had me on an unrestricted diet. So I could get anything I wanted, and I managed to order bacon and eggs 3 times a day. That was the only thing they ever offered that fit my diet, and I tried. But somehow they re-addicted me to sugar. And I started this story, half an hour ago, about the sugar addiction. And running for the little ice creams all day long. I've been home for 4 days. I don't know whether it's a miracle or this is all it took. But the cravings have gone away. I've been eating nothing but ground beef and bacon and eggs. I've got to the point where I have no cravings now. My stomach has settled down. It was a mess from that stuff they were feeding me. Just awful, gastric, gas like you wouldn't believe. Might be from that ice cream and all the chemicals that were in it. But it took me 4 or 5 days, and I'm probably back to where I was before I had the stroke. So that's good news. It didn't take me long to unaddict myself from a 4 to 5 ice cream a day Jones that I happened to get while I was in there after 3 or 4 days of eating sugar. So fortunately, and I was worried about how long it would take me to re-fat adapt and get rid of the cravings. It happened quick, which is good news. So take heart if you're fat adapted and you get thrown into a situation like that where you get your sugar addiction comes back hard. Chances are you'll be able to get over it pretty quickly. And I haven't had any visions of ice cream dancing in my head since I got home. Coming up on an hour here, and I think I'm gonna cut this at an hour so I don't overdo it. So far, I think my voice is holding, my speech is holding pretty good. Maybe a little slurring, but I think I'm still intelligible. I want to thank everybody for the support again. Thank you so much for all the love. I mean, 50 to 1. the comments were very positive. And if only 2% of the people that commented on my videos were the morons that they showed themselves to be, I think I'm doing pretty good with my audience. I'm going to try to put a little more thought into these live streams going forward, so I can share things in a form of a theme and not be so random and just bounce all over the place. But honest, today, on the first one back, I had no idea whether I was going to be able to do it, whether I remembered how to work all the push buttons and come off with semi-professional at least. It went pretty well, and I'm very happy with the results. And I know that many of you have left comments and have asked questions and I didn't get to them, but we'll get back. Yeah, here's a question from Lat. Please go rest before your therapy today. Yeah, that's a good idea, Lat. Thank you. But it's great to see all the old regulars, and it's great to see so many new people in the chat. And 426 people here is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I hope I don't bore you going forward, and I hope some of the things that I'm able to convey to you will help if any of you ever find yourself in a situation like I did. I still have to tell you the story of the 911 call. And I'll lead with that next time. That'll be the first thing I talk about. So if I forget that, somebody remind me in the chat. Tell us about the 911 call. It was, to say unbelievable, what I found, what I actually found myself involved in. You'll see. It's worth hearing. So, Tuka, thank you, Tuka, for a £3 super chat. Thank you very much. Super sticker. Carnivore Journal just came in with a $2 super chat. Thank you, or super sticker. Thank you so much. All of that is greatly appreciated, guys. But I think we're gonna call it a day. I might just play a little traveling music here. Yeah. There we go. So I got the music. I haven't had any sound effects today, but I don't want to stretch it too far. I want to thank everybody for showing up. I wanted to do at least an hour, and I did. And I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of all of you for hanging in there with me. So, tell you what, guys. Let's finish our coffee. Take a minute or two to say goodbye to everybody. In the chat, let's see who's saying goodbye. Danny in Boston says happy day all. Nikki W says goodbye. Lady June says goodbye. Dixie, Scott, Pamela, Suarez. Tuka, Turamir Carnivore. Wow, look at them all. They're going by so fast I can hardly read them. Aunt B, Karen, Travis, CB, Carmack, Lat, Booby, Goats, Brenda, Collins. Jebet, how you doing, Jebet? Bob Black, Danny in Boston, Lizzie, Charger, Mopar, Tanya, Kitchen Witch. Love you too, sweetie. Thank you so much. Charles Faircloth, Mitch, so glad you have back to have a blessed day. Target Prime Rib says goodbye, everyone. Pamela Suarez. David Desagne says, take the day off. I will, except for my therapy at 1 o'clock. Josephine C is here. Denise Kink. Dolly, Vicky Shaw, Denise Moore, Jeff Johnson, the name you know. Thanks, Jeff. Good to see you. Sunny days. Lynn Tucker, Carnivore. Greener Pastures. Amy Beister. Thanks so much for coming, guys. Thanks so much. You know the drill. You know the drill. Take the rest of the day off and eat meat